virtually going waste at the Tema Port following a directive by the Ghana Revenue Authority over allegations of containers going missing at the facility. In 2016 alone, the authority bagged some $2 million in revenue for reefer container business.
Only 1.5 million liters of water is
now to the Ashanti region, where the Asokwa District Court in Kumasi has denied bail for 2 suspects held in police custody over the alleged murder of Ruth Eshun, a community health nurse in Siwa in the Bosumtwi district of the Ashanti region. The police prosecutor told the court investigations are still ongoing. Local government has requested 2 weeks from the National Labour Commission to resolve the grievances of CLOGSAG. CLOGSAG had threatened a strike over full payment of interim premium for its members.
only 1.5 million liters of water is
In other news, the Chief Executive Officer of the Mental Health Authority, Dr. Akwesi Osei, is asking political parties to include a comprehensive mental health policy in their manifesto as a way to declare their preparedness to improve the sector. He made the observation on the sidelines of the launch of a report on the role of traditional mental health centers in promoting healthcare in Ghana.
Some of them have started saying, "May that day Sambe Wami," but was it as simple as that?
All right, so those are the major stories making headlines here in Ghana. Let's find out what's happening elsewhere around the world. And we're starting from Iran, where the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani says there are no plans to quarantine any cities and towns despite the spread of the new coronavirus outbreak across the country. He told the cabinet meeting that health authorities would continue to only quarantine individuals and not an entire township. The United Nations has made an appeal for more funds to tackle the unprecedented invasion of locusts threatening crops in parts of Africa and Asia. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, says a food crisis could be looming in East Africa if more resources are not forthcoming, and has appealed to donors for an additional $62 million to fight the menace. And finally, 5-time Grand Slam champion Maria Sharapova has retired from tennis at the age of 32. The Russian won her first Grand Slam at Wimbledon in 2004, aged 17, and completed the career slam, all 4 major titles, by winning the French Open in 2012.
Some of them have started saying, "May that day Sambe Wami," but was it as simple as that?
Thank you for staying with TV3. This is The Stands, and it is live from the studios of TV3 in Adisawe in Accra. We are starting today's discussion from the House of Parliament. The Speaker of the House, Professor Mike Okoye, has threatened to withdraw the accreditation of journalists who cover news conferences by members of Parliament while the House is in session. He has thereby summoned the Dean of the Parliamentary Press Corps and the Director of Public Affairs of Parliament over the conduct of some journalists. Mercy Darlene Loco was in Parliament and reports.
Journalists on Tuesday, February 25, stepped out of the chamber during proceedings to speak to some members of the minority after their boycott of the debate on the State of the Nation's address. During proceedings on Wednesday, the majority leader, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, drew the Speaker's attention to the development, adding that the media owes allegiance to Parliament and not individual MPs.
Let it be on record that the media are accredited to come and cover proceedings in the chamber. Any group or caucus that want to engage the press could do so. But normally, Mr. Speaker, as we did when we were in the minority, we would engage the press before the sitting of the House. Perhaps something dramatic would have happened in the chamber, which may occasion the press following to inquire whatever might have happened. Other than that, if proceedings are going on in the chamber, and you are accredited to cover proceedings, you don't leave the chamber at the beck and call of an individual member of Parliament to cover that member of Parliament.
The minority leader supported the call for the media to serve the interest of Parliament rather than individual MPs.
You are here once upon a time in the minority, and you are there as majority, and probably tomorrow you'll be here again. The clock will always change. I agree that the media should be dutiful to this Parliament and to this House, and therefore the media behave in a manner that you are serving the institution of Parliament and not any individual member of Parliament.
The Speaker of Parliament in response said journalists who cover news conferences by individuals during proceedings would have their accreditation revoked.
We have a saying in our Tree language, I want to let the media know if that which is reported to have happened should happen anymore. I have reminded you of the fact that you are here as guests by my permission because of the importance this house attaches to the inky profession. Any such deviation will make you an unwelcome guest, and your welcome will be duly withdrawn.
Meanwhile, the minority continued with its boycott of the debate on the President's State of the Nation's address.
Well, so we are going to be starting our discussion this evening on the issue that happened on the floor of Parliament. Earlier today has raised lots of varied views on social media and conventional media. And in the wake of that, the Director of Public Affairs in Parliament, who was summoned alongside the Dean of the Parliamentary Press Corps to the office of the Speaker, has released a statement. And I'll read portions of the statement signed by Kate Addo, who is the Director of Public Affairs in Parliament. And part of the statement says, the Office of Parliament has noted media reports purporting that the Speaker of Parliament is seeking to gag the media. The office would like to put on record that at no time, either in the capacity as Speaker or in his personal capacity, has Professor Aaron Michael Quay sought to prevent the media from doing its work. The allegation follows events from the chamber on Tuesday, 26th February 2020, during which concerns were raised about the media leaving the chamber during deliberations by members in the House. While the conversation goes on, I'll bring you parts or the remaining parts of that statement by Kate Addo, trying to at least simmer down the tension and the pressure that was arising from today's discussion in Parliament, where some media houses or the Speaker said that in view of things that have happened on the floor and the fact that during deliberations or the business of the day, media journalists leave the chamber or outside the chamber to engage members of Parliament for various reasons, that must stop. The concern has been, why should it be so? Why should the Speaker of Parliament be telling journalists what to do on the floor of Parliament or when they come to Parliament? There is the other side of the argument that says he is the Speaker of the House of Parliament, and the concern that he has raised is legitimate in that the members of Parliament are there to do the business of the House by representing their constituents and debating issues that are of interest to their constituents. So you do not leave the business of the House, go out to engage the media, sometimes on personal issues and other times on issues that may not necessarily be related to what's happening on the floor. Where do you stand on that debate? We'll be happy to hear from you as you join us for this discussion. Let me introduce my colleagues who've joined me. On my immediate left, we have Emmanuel Kwame Amo. He's the online editor, 3news.com here at Media General, and Thomas Adotai Papo. He is also editor of the General News Desk here at Media General. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Martin. Good evening, Martin.
Good to have you join us. Okay.
Always great to be on your show.
Thank you. I mean, the newsroom, there has already been that debate. I have taken a position. I actually put it on social media, and I think that I like the discussion that has come. Very varied. I'll start with you, Thomas. I can see also that you have the Constitution in front of you, so I'm sure you will try to go the legal way somewhat. What was your initial reaction when you heard that the Speaker had made some pronouncements regarding journalists and our activity in Parliament?
I was surprised, extremely surprised, in as much as I had some, reservations regarding the stance taken by other people. I was pretty much surprised at the Speaker's pronouncement, in the sense that, why would the Speaker caution journalists rather than going after his own members of Parliament? Because from what I'm reading, the Standing Orders, Article 3 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, arms the Speaker or clothes him with the powers of issuing out directives. But there's a limit to that. You cannot extend those, directives to people who are your guests. He can only do that within the confines of Parliament, and by extension, direct parliamentarians. So I was taken aback, in the sense that not only with the Speaker of Parliament, but then with the minority leader, and then the majority leader too as well, who first raised the issue. Because as we are told, the minority leader actually agreed with the majority leader on its stance, because that is not the calling. We as reporters are in Parliament and guests. We are not employed by the Parliament board, nothing of that sort. We go there in a capacity as journalists to report on issues, so that if there is an issue happening outside Parliament and we want to cover it, what prevents us from doing that?
Okay, that is where the bone of contention is for many. But before I play the devil's advocate in this regard, maybe Kwame Amoh would let us know what his initial thoughts were on the subject.
First of all, I share in the sentiments of the Speaker of Parliament. And Martin, you should know that in the stratum of authority,
this opinion,
yeah,
very interesting.
That is my opinion.
The stratum of authority, of the land. He's the third, gentleman after the president, the vice president. He's the main man, who should be in charge. And to go to Parliament, have journalists, he sitting in the chamber presiding over affairs, and then discussions going on, and you see the journalists swayed to, cover issues outside the main chamber. It gets him piqued, and that is how the angle I'm coming from. It demeans in a way his authority as the third gentleman of the land. But he also has to consider the work of journalists, all right? Journalists work to satisfy the public. Yeah. We work in the interest of the public, all right? And wherever the news is, that's where we go to. So first of all, he should understand that wherever we are baited, to get news, that's where we'll go to. And let me give this example about the boycott of the State of the Nation by the minority, all right? In the main chamber, the president of the land is there. The vice president was also there. The Speaker of Parliament, the third gentleman of the land, was also there. But you get the minority going out. In the normal affair of the workings of the House, the journalists must be in there to cover what the president is going to tell the nation. Right. But an innovative and a very instrumental journalist would want to satisfy the curiosity of the public. All right, by going after the minority had walked out and see what they are doing while the
so then Kwame, you agree with me on that?
No, I agree with you, but
that's why he's saying that
two sides of the coin.
Don't worry,
because
don't worry.
I am on the side that the Speaker of Parliament has no right to bar reporters. That amounts to gagging reporters and journalists in the House.
No,
I think
you seem to be espousing my views, and I'm surprised.
No, Thomas, wait. The use of even the word gagging the media in itself is questionable. But we'll come to all of that. Let Kwame land on his initial submission.
Yes, these are prelims I'm making.
Yeah.
I share he has the authority, all right? So he has to dictate the piece. That's why I don't go by this press call. When they you are put in a box like that, they want to dictate how you work. But maybe I share your sentiment, I share your opinion that we need to be allowed to operate freely because we serve the public first and not the interest of any groupings, not the interest of MPs, not the interest of the speaker. And that's what Professor Aaron Mike Okoye should understand.
Right.
And I respect him a lot. You know, I knew him from his days as the head of the political science department of the University of Ghana, you know, being the minister for communications, minister for energy, you know, getting into my constituency as the first MP for Tomi Kwabena on 2 terms. I know he has respectable opinion about these things, but this time I think he's going too overboard. And I quote him, he says, any such deviation will make you an unwelcome guest and your welcome will be duly withdrawn. I think he's going too extreme.
Okay.
Because we are there to serve the public.
Would you
first
agree?
and foremost.
Would you agree, Thomas, before you come in, would you agree that the journalists who leave the chamber during business hours or during the time of business parliamentary proceedings are ongoing are doing themselves and their listeners and viewers a disservice and readers a disservice by leaving the fundamental reason why you went to parliament in the first place?
To do what?
To cover what is happening in parliament.
So,
however, we do know that some of these members of parliament, whether they are in tandem with what's happening on the floor or not, whenever they step out, there is a possibility they have something juicy that the journalists would want to follow.
Okay.
That does not mean that you leave the business for which you went to the floor and then follow that. That is where the controversy is for me. And I'm saying that in as much as the speaker has the mandate and the power. And I like the fact that the majority leader raised it and the minority leader supported it. Although some members of the minority are saying that no, it
there's
amounts
a backlash now,
to
and
to,
they now
to
want to
the media.
address the issue such that it won't amount to as if they are trying to prevent the media from doing its work.
Which is not true.
I have covered Parliament a few times. My work has really been with the courts. My colleagues who have covered, Parliament a lot of times tells me that umpteen times, Martin and Kwame, you have Parliament not discussing anything newsworthy, so that journalists will be forced to go out and look for news elsewhere. Imagine you are in Parliament and you're supposed to bring news to your newsroom, and what is being discussed is not newsworthy for you. What do? Is it that because you were asked to go to Parliament, you sit down and watch proceedings that are not newsworthy?
That is, he answered this question. This question was very likely to come
that is newsworthy.
So it's been absolutely. So it's been answered. And
I can tell you, Martin,
it's been answered by the speaker himself. When he said, let me finish. Where he said that you can engage members of Parliament before or after the parliamentary business. He's not saying don't do that. He's saying that you can do that as a journalist. In fact, you can do whatever you want. But during the business of the day, you cannot just walk out. And in fact, maybe your earlier submission that he should deal with MPs first.
That's the point I want to make.
Let me give you some information. Do you know that several times the Speaker of Parliament, while sitting, will have to excuse himself from the floor and then go and meet guests. And then at that point, reporters and journalists are asked to go and cover it. What happens to that one too as well?
Okay.
So it means that I think the Parliament itself must streamline how its activities and operations go. For example, there are committee sittings, that happen concurrently while Parliament,
in session.
Main discussions are going on in the chamber. What about that? Would you want the journalist, to divide himself or herself, to cover here and then? No, you would want him to chase what, as I mentioned earlier, what will interest the
viewer,
public,
the reader.
So they should know how they also plan their activities.
Yeah.
If you don't plan well, you get the journalists, going out to chase what is juicy.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was asking you what exactly the journalists will go out of Parliament to do is, whether what the journalist is going out is connected with, parliamentary work.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
If if it is not, that's where Professor Maikokwe has a great point. If it is not at all, say parliamentary activity is going, and then journalists, member of the press corps would go and cover something, say on a ministry or agency here and there. But if it is directly or indirectly related to parliament, you can't gag the journalists. You should allow the journalists to do what will interest.
Anyway, we seem to be, in fact, this subject, clearly the positive point I'm taking from this is that he has broached a very important and necessary subject, and I'm sure in the coming days, Parliament itself might talk about it and try to fine-tune what the job of MPs should be, and then from there, journalists can then, pick and choose what to cover.
I think that's where he needed to have, come from the angle. He needed to
deal with the MPs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Martin, before you proceed further,
we need to
take a break.
Yes, we need to pull the clock on this. We are not likely to come back to, but then probably when you have your chance to talk about the Get Fund issue, you might rope it in. But
all right, that's fine.
This is The Stands on TV3. Today, I have Kwame Amo joining me, and then also Thomas Adote Papo. We are taking a quick breather. When we return, the Get Fund brouhaha is definitely on the front burner for us. If you are a beneficiary or your name was there, are you also considering suing the Auditor General? The Auditor General, talking about him, he has also released a statement about one such person who has dragged him to court. We'll tell you what the content of his statement is when we return. Stay with us. This is The Stands on TV3, and before we go to the issue regarding the Auditor General's report that was released over the weekend, which has created its own storm, let me give Thomas and Kwame, a minute each to, conclude their submissions on the parliamentary proceedings and the issues.
Just 1 minute.
Thereafter,
to say that the position taken by the Speaker of Parliament is not founded in law, and I'll just read Article 21, 162, 45 of the Constitution. 21 says that all persons shall have the right to a freedom of speech and expression, which shall include freedom of the press and other media, freedom of thought, conscience, and belief, which shall include academic freedom. Let me run quickly to Article 162. That is so critical and is a foundation.
Okay, so I have 162
what the media
here.
says.
Which part of it do you want me to read?
Just 1624.
1624 says, editors and publishers of newspapers and other institutions of the mass media shall not be subject to control or interference by government. And government here includes the judiciary, the legislature, and then also the executive. Nor shall they be penalized or harassed for their editorial opinions and views or the content of their publications. And again, that is where my concern is, that this in no way is gagging the media. How is it gagging? He says that when you come here to do this. You can do the other things after you leave. After the business of the day is done. You get the answer.
All agencies of mass media shall at all times be free to uphold the principles, provisions, and objectives of this Constitution, and shall uphold responsibility and accountability of the government to the people of Ghana. Accountability of the government to the people of Ghana. So we are trying to serve the people of Ghana, not MPs, but the Speaker of Parliament.
Okay, thank you, Thomas.
I think the first port of call for the Speaker should be an advice to both sides of the House. House. He should advise the minority MPs, the majority MPs, because they call the journalists to get them, their work. I remember sometime we went to Parliament, an MP made a statement on the floor of the House, and he told the cameraman to take that shot and broadcast it. So it tells you that they try to get the journalists to sway from what the main business
of the House.
The Speaker, if the Speaker has any advice or any warning, he should rather go to the. And I tend to condemn the hypocrisy of the leadership, the majority and minority. They supporting this, but they
are the ones
yeah, they're doing this.
Okay. Well, maybe I think my final word on this will be that charity begins at home. So if the Speaker can clean up this part of the parliamentary business, I'm sure the journalists will naturally fall in line and follow what's supposed to be done when they go to the House. Anyway, we are closing that chapter now. Let's go on to the second subject we are treating this evening. The Auditor General says he will surcharge beneficiaries of the Get Fund scholarship who secured sponsorship from the fund wrongfully. The performance audit of the Get Fund was undertaken by Audit Service from 2012 to 2018. Now, the audit revealed that majority of the beneficiaries were not needy, and that word needy in itself has come for some scrutiny. In fact, the report affirms that the Get Fund did not use the fund in accordance with Act 581, which stipulates that the fund can provide support for local scholarships and not international ones. And so, why is it that in excess of some 3,000 persons got scholarships from the Get Fund outside the shores of Ghana to go and get educated? But then that was contrary to what the laws the laws that set up Get Fund was. I'll start with you on this, Kwame Amo. Before Kwame comes in, let's play this story. Then we can come and have a bite on it.
We reviewed their documents pertaining to applications from beneficiaries. We reviewed documents on approvals. We reviewed the bank statements, transfer letters to the banks, and also the SWIFT, that is the transfers from the banks to the schools. We reviewed all these documents and they were all available. They were made readily available to us by Get Fund.
And what was one compelling thing, or the most compelling things when you were reviewing the bank statement, most especially from Get Fund? The monies were released. Do you say that was exactly what you found out?
Yes. The SWIFT, so far as they are SWIFT, then it means that the money has left the banks to the accounts of the schools. So the monies were released to the schools. Yes.
All right, that is Alberta O. She is a lead auditor that led the team that did the auditing of the Get Fund Secretariat. Kwame Amo, your initial comment on
I don't know.
Are you scandalized?
I'm scandalized by the report we got last Sunday. Yeah. And let me commend the Auditor General, Daniel Yao Domelevo. He's doing a great job. Yeah. And he's maybe taking the shine, but let me also talk about the audit team that did this.
That did the job.
There's Alberta Owu, you saw. There's Elliot Asiedu, there's Michael Opoku, there's Mona Lisa Luchu, there's Kwabna Usuchum, there's Theophilus Egan, there's Hannah Mensah, and they did this under the supervision of Jacob Esilvi, who is the Assistant Auditor General, and Benjamin Kojo, who is the Deputy Auditor General. And they've done a yeoman's job to bring this to the limelight. And from the report, between 2012 and 2018, almost every year there is an overrun of the budget of the Get Fund.
Get Fund, yeah.
And this has eaten deep into the fabric of the Ghanaian purse. And it tells you that when they say corruption is endemic, it is indeed endemic. There's a way of siphoning money from the state into what is not necessary. Now, let me get you the figures right. From 2012 to 2018, they had 3,112 applications, and out of that, from the reports, 2,217 were illegal, which constitute 71.2% of the whole deal from 2012 to 2018, which tells you that about 50% or more than half of the scholarships granted have been unlawful, have been illegal. And this tells you that we've expended money into an arena that is not useful to the state, that will not bring any benefit to the state. And clearly it's shown, because some people went in for scholarship, and they even changed their schools at the expense of the state. And this is a developing country that needs so much to help in improving the education sector. Yeah. And you go get money and you just expend it anyhow. It tells you that Ghana, we have a long way to go.
Yes, Tap.
I think this whole thing was born out of students' frustration and complaints And I'm speaking about students who got the facility and they went abroad to study. You can imagine you being in somebody else's country and you can't pay your fees, you can't pay your hostel fees. You are threatened that if you don't pay your fees, you'll be thrown out of the school. You will not write exams and all that. These are serious issues. Obi Mainso, it is not your country where you can say that, okay, I'm going to borrow some money from somewhere quickly, or I would even speak to them. These are strict rules elsewhere, and it is a very serious thing. It was surprising to know that the GES itself actually commissioned this report. When I got to know, I was surprised because of the fact that they could not really, allocate funds to people, and they realized that there was something wrong somewhere. It has taken a long time. You realize that there were a lot of infractions committed by the GET Fund, to the extent that the GET Fund is not supposed to administer, scholarships,
both locally and
it's serious. The institution that is mandated to administer scholarship is the Scholarship Secretariat, and the GET Fund went out of its way. And if you read the report, it curtailed sending funds to the Scholarship Secretariat and actually started to administer funds by itself. It tells you that this is a serious issue. Now, let me just give you some of the infractions that it did. GET Fund stipulates funds should for secondary and tertiary education within the country. It does not allow for persons who want funds
for foreign
education.
Yes.
So it's a serious offense.
Okay. We would so I'm going to call, and we'll put it on your screen shortly. You'd see what some of these infractions are and what the GET Fund really was set up to do. So on your screens you can see that it says clearly GET Funds Act, that is Act 58122B, stipulates that funds should be for secondary and tertiary education within the country. GET Fund failed to use due process to amend the law administered scholarships in violation of the law. So and clearly we are talking about the period between 2012 and 2018. So it cuts across, or it transcends both administrations. GET Fund spent in excess of 4 million cedis on scholarships. That is about 3,000 and over beneficiaries. And out of that 2,217 persons were unlawfully granted scholarships to study abroad. The institution mandated by law to run foreign scholarships is the Scholarship Secretariat. GET Fund administers scholarships, local and foreign, though it did not have the mandate to do so. The amount expended on foreign scholarships could have paid for more Ghanaians to access tertiary education locally. Gifted but needy students borrowed from student loan trust to help them, further their education, while officials who are highly placed in society took the scholarship for not even the awards, but for themselves. And that is where a number of questions have come up. And some other recommendations. The Auditor General may disallow the expenditures by GET Fund Secretariat in the management of foreign scholarships, which he deems contrary to the law, and surcharge the persons involved. And this information we actually got from the website of the Audit Service. And the concern then has been the definition of the word needy. I am needy. I am needy. I've heard some top political figures also saying that they are needy. Let me come to you on this, Kwame. Maybe I've gone through the acts that set up the scholarship, the GET Fund. It just used the word needy. It didn't define needy. So if I come to you and I say I need money, I need funding to do A, B, and C, I am, so far as I qualify as a Ghanaian and I'm going into a tertiary or a secondary institution, I qualify to get through. So that is where people are saying that who is truly needy and who is not.
Yeah, something is making me laugh. The General Secretary of the NDs, Asidu Nketia, said his son was a beneficiary of the GET Fund, and his son and himself.
He himself is needy. Asidu Nketia says he's needy
because after 2009, he was not in parliament, and since he's been outside parliament, he was needy.
Yes.
That was why his son went in for the scholars. But I must say that, you know, when you are a civil servant, first of all, you know, you need not to shirk your responsibility and go into school. If you want to pursue further education, you need to resign from the civil service, all right? And that is the infraction that has happened with this scholarship. They continue to serve as civil servants, they continue to serve as ministers, they continue to serve as politicians in various capacities, because some are members of parliament, and they still benefit from the state. Whereas they are needy students. Martin, I was in university practice SHS in Cape Coast last time. We see students really needy. Kendall, learning. Some want to be doctor. A nephew of mine is pursuing science in that school. He wants to be a medical doctor in future. Learning. This guy needs something small to boost him. And then you go and give the money to someone who is accomplished in life, you know, you want to, and you know, just like the report stipulated or clearly stated, if you want to redefine the object of the GET fund, let it be clear. But don't try and, you know, draw rings around the object of the fund and say that we are needy and so we also benefit from it. No, GET fund is not supposed to be even for foreign education,
especially for
supposed to be a local stuff, and it's supposed to be for projects.
Martin, fund I want to be a bit controversial here, and I would like to disagree slightly with Kwame Amu on this stance, in the fact that there are classes of being needy, or there are classifications of someone wanting something.
Maslow's theory of
so
need.
You can even have Dangote being needy. There's something he cannot get.
You see,
he has all the monies in the world. Let me land. Even Dangote, okay, who has all the monies in the world, may be needy in some aspect, because he might not get everything he needs, even with this money he has. And then you have somebody who comes from a very poor community, who is also needy. You understand? So the very fact that a member of parliament is seeking funds, and we all know John Kachi and Sremsai also applied for funds, and they got it. So that it tells you that it is not that because they have gotten to a certain place in life they cannot get that money, but they may not at that moment get the money. And I'm not supporting the fact that it was good to, you know, give them funds. Far from that.
Thomas, if Martin, let me let the public know the extent of, you know, excessive expenditure that has, you know, eaten so deep into the. See, from 2012, the scholarship was the GET fund was allocated 12 million Ghana cedis. Now they expended that expenditure, you know, by more than 300%.
Yes.
It reached over 57 million. In 2013, same 12,000 allocated to the fund. They expended as much as almost 56 million. 2014, same 12,000. They went 50 million. 2015, 15,000 allocated. They went 35 million. 2016, 20,000 allocated. They went 48 million. 2017, 53,000 allocated. They went 86 million. 2018, 45 million allocated. They went 90 million. It tells you that they are always going above board, so they should have put in measures to cut off certain people. If you are an MP and there's someone from Eduko, my hometown, who wants to go to school, why would you want to, you know, give it to an MP who is already established, who has already gone to
the issue of acquiring or securing funding for education in the country? It's a subject matter that I'm not sure we can easily conclude on, in that when we need to even now go into the definition of needy. There are those that say that brilliant but needy, and needy but brilliant. Besides the point, Martin, you know, that's beside the point. Well, let me just land on this, in that when we probably need to review the act of GET fund and then properly define who is needy. And then again, it clearly said that it is supposed to be for local education and secondary and tertiary. So in the first place, the GET Fund goofed right from the onset of giving scholarships to persons who were going to school outside. That is one.
Exactly.
Secondly, I heard the former head of the GET Fund saying that, well, that was the system he came to meet, and that he just continued from there. Which in itself,
I did not invent anything. I saw and met a procedure and a structure in the administration of the scholars. And he goes to say that then when he was in power, Professor John Evans, the late Professor John Evans Atamils was the chairman of the board of trustees, and he's dead now. So, he has the leeway to do that.
So right from the onset, I think we got it wrong. And so in retrospect, we should have checked that. Why was there a decoupling of the activities of GET Fund and the Scholarship Secretariat, in that one was supposed to be feeding the other financially? What then has the role of the Scholarship Secretariat been? If your duty was to make sure that any student, Ghanaian student who wants, or any Ghanaian who wants to further education abroad, that mandate was for the Scholarship Secretariat, not GET Fund. So if there's supposed to be any sanctions, clearly I think the executives or leadership of GET Fund must bear the brunt of this, and those that have wrongly been given those monies be made to pay it back to the state.
Exactly.
With interest, as my producer is saying. And so we need to get the, and I'm happy that the Auditor General has brought this out. A member of Parliament, Deputy Agric Minister, is saying that he's suing the Auditor General for mentioning his name as part of those who benefited from this.
And that's something we need to look into, because not only him, there's one Ajia Ramana Sharif.
Yes.
She also says that her name was captured.
Her name was there,
she didn't receive
the fee was paid, but then she didn't get it.
So that's why I was linking the whole thing to corruption.
That is one issue that we've been discussing in the newsroom. The very fact that certain persons who did not access the funds found their names on the list and had a problem with that. We've argued this thing over and over and over again. I thought that it is unfair to them. And my colleagues in the newsroom have said that it is not incumbent on the Auditor General to check all these things. But I think that in all fairness, Martin, and I've set the rule about Audi ultra partem, the fact that you have to check the other side too, it's so critical.
Yes.
This is public information. Okay.
I'm not sure.
Martin, let me land.
We need to take a quick break.
Let me land.
Then they
you are putting the information. You are putting information in the public domain where everybody will see.
No, so
if you make a mistake, you saw their image.
I can't
make a mistake. You saw their image.
I come completely as an auditor.
And so I think that it was incumbent on the Auditor General to have asked them if indeed they benefited.
Something has happened. One voice. Something has happened at TV3, and I come in as the auditor. And then I audit, and the names have been given by TV3.
If you were consuming the names
if
you were consuming on your own, it's fine. But once you are publishing it, then it's serious.
That's their report.
We will be back shortly to tell you about some of our plans for the coverage of this all-important 2020 general elections, which is going to be in December. We have launched the Election Command Center. This is your Election Command Center. We'll be back shortly to tell you more about that. Stay with us. Well, before we go to that subject, my last take on the issue of the Scholarship Secretariat and GET Fund. Unfortunately, there seems not to be a monitoring scheme in place to even check the students that take these funds and go out there. And then when they complete their education, there is still no monitoring mechanism in place to check whether or not they come back to the country to give back to the country. Other scholarship schemes in place, like the Chevening Scholarship, the Commonwealth Scholarship, do these things where you are mandated to return after your studies. A number of Ghanaians have gone out of the shores of Ghana on the taxpayers' money, have completed their education, and are still out there doing whatever it is they are doing. When part of the institution, we were told that when you go, you're supposed to come back and help your nation. Maybe that should be food for thought for the GET Fund leadership and the government as we try to review and clean up this mess, this rot, this canker, this smelly canker of what has happened at the GET Fund Secretariat. This is News at 10, The Stance. Now let's go to some political issues On Tuesday, February 25, Media General launched its Election Command Center, promising to provide unrivaled election coverage on all its platforms in this year's general elections. So, the Media General platforms include TV3, which you're watching now, Onua TV, 3FM, Onua FM, Akuma FM, and then Connect FM, and then also our online portal, 3news.com. The coverage will be guided by truth, fairness, accuracy, and speed. So let's watch a number of the montages that we have for you regarding the number of persons that came to speak, and then also those that pledged peace going into the December polls.
Posterity, the children of tomorrow, will never forgive us if we do anything to disturb the peace and stability of the country.
As a native of Ghana and a former regional minister for Greater Accra and also a regent, it is very, very important for us to have peace as a country, because this is the only country that we have. I call on all Ghanaians. I call on the President of the Republic. I call on all institutions, Parliament, the military, the police, to make sure that whatever role that we have to play within our catchment areas for peace to prevail in our country, we should never hesitate in doing that, because we all have a responsibility and a duty to perform. I pledge to peace.
The Election Command Center.
Clearly, this is your Election Command Center, and we have got you covered. You have nothing to worry about. All you need to do is, if you're listening to radio, raise up the volume on our media platforms, and then also for TV, increase that volume a bit and relax. For 2020, December 7, before, during, and after, we've got you covered. We have your back until the president is sworn in on the 7th of January 2021. Who would it be? TV3 and Media General have you on that. Tap, do you have nostalgic feelings how we covered 2016, and then already there are preparations in place for the coverage of 2020?
I tell you, I mean, 2016 we brought, viewers groundbreaking, stories on the elections, and I have no doubt that this year around we're going to even, take the standard a notch higher, and so I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that, the politicians will allow us to do our work. Sometimes it's so difficult, and as you heard the former graphic editor say that it is nice to have fewer, aspiring presidential, material such that you have time to follow. If you have more than 5, 6, it's difficult to deploy. But if you have fewer, aspiring candidates, it makes it easier for you. But I have no doubt that, with this training program that we're going to have, it's going to prepare us for what is coming up. Yeah.
I'm charged up. Yeah, Kwame.
Yeah, I can speak for 3news.com.
Yeah.
We won't be sensational. We won't cause, hairs to roll. We would want to be balanced. We want to be fair. We want to cover every political party, equally. Yeah. And we'll be in all the constituencies, the 275 constituencies, to give fair coverage to all the aspirants. It's a matter of, getting into contact with us, and you get covered. And the elections these years in particular will be dictated by the internet, will be dictated by what goes on social media. Right. And 3news.com, with its affiliate social media accounts, 3news GH on Twitter and Facebook, and we have TV3 Ghana would be there to give our viewers and our readers whatever happens in every nook and cranny in Ghana.
We've got them covered. Yes, so we have also pledged to peace, and Tap and Kwame Amo will quickly pledge to peace, then we'll wrap up the show. Yes, so we're starting with you, Tap.
My name is Thomas Adotai Papo, and I pledge to peace.
My name is Emmanuel Kwame Amo. I also pledge to peace.
All right, gentlemen, I concur. All right, so thank you so much for joining us for the Stance today. I am Martin Esiedudati. I was here with Thomas Adote Papo. He is news editor, media general news desk, and then also Kwame Amo. He is news editor, 3news.com. It's been an interesting discussion. We know that you're also having those discussions both in your homes and wherever you watch that from. Thank you for being a part of the show. Do have a good evening, and as always, stay positive. Bye for now.